The Balkhash. Like dozens of other vessels, it was blown up on minefields of the Uminda Peninsula and promptly sank in the morning of 29th of August 1941. 3,800 people died as the ship went down. The evacuation of ships of the Baltic Fleet and military units from besieged Tallinn to Kronstadt began on 28th of August 1941. During 2 days of crossing the Gulf of Finland, out of 225 ships and vessels, 62 were lost. Around 15,000 military personnel and civilians fell victim to this unprecedented tragedy. 80 years later, in 2021, a reconnaissance and diving crew carried out the largest expedition to find and identify the victims of the Tallinn breakthrough. We set ourselves the task of finding those steamships where there were the greatest number of victims, in other words, the largest mass graves of the Tallinn breakthrough. This mission ended up not only being risky but technically very difficult. An unbearable psychological burden fell on the shoulders of the researchers. The Kalpaks steamship. This was the first ship found by the expedition members. The soil was taken straight from the hold, scooped up right here. This is important. The remains, a few helmets and a pair of leather army boots were found there. According to archival data, it transported more than 1,000 people. Most of these passengers were wounded. There were no anti-aircraft guns. There was an order to fire machine guns and rifles. Bombs were going off here and there, again and again. The ship shook so much that rust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere inside, a bomb exploded, and we felt in. Even the coal shook. The captain, in his overcoat and cap on his head, jumped into the water. Once he hit the water, he couldn't swim. He came to the surface and then disappeared beneath the water. Then there was a civilian and a sailor there. Well, at least he was wearing a sailor's shirt. Probably he was a ship's sailor or a wounded one. He didn't have any buttocks, only bones. They kissed each other goodbye and disappeared. A woman and her child fell together. The wind blew up their skirts as they fell into the water like ballerinas. That's how they died. There were different wooden boards scattered around the ship, and the ship itself was already in this position. People were falling on these boards there. Those who jumped stayed there floating in the water before disappearing beneath the surface, from which they never emerged. Well, the noise and the screaming of the women, a lot of women, and the wounded, 1,200 people, came from the holds. One bomb hit the second hold. This was where the operating room was located. It was full of wounded people. The second bomb hit the fourth hold, full of wounded people. They all drowned. The ship was sinking just like this. One or two propellers. One was still, the other was spinning calmly, saying goodbye to us as they sank beneath the water, bidding us farewell. Those who perished in the water of the Gulf are all buried on the decks of the Kalpaks, in its cabins and holds. In just one season, together with the specialists of the marine engineering company Fertoing, the search engines found 5 vessels of the Tallinn breakthrough inside the modern borders of Russia, the Kalpaks and Aleph ambulance vessels, the Atis Kronvalds, Järvamaa and Ausmaa steamships. Behind these names, there are almost 3,000 lost lives of sailors and soldiers, women and children. 5 new coordinates containing underwater mass graves appeared on the map of the Russian part of the Gulf of Finland. 5 new online 3D museums dedicated to the heroes and victims of the Battle of the Baltic have opened. The Uminda minefield, the epicenter of the tragedy of the Tallinn breakthrough. On the night of 28th to 29th of August 1941, the ships had 22 nautical miles to cover. Not only these, but they had to survive, considering their path was littered with more than 2,500 deadly traps. Not everyone succeeded. Preparations for this expedition took more than 6 months. The Department for the Protection of Ancient Monuments of the Republic of Estonia provided great assistance and concluded an official agreement with our team to conduct the expedition in Estonian territorial waters, which helped hugely. Despite all quarantine restrictions and other difficulties, our team still came to Estonia and completed the planned work. Out of 5 ships that researchers from Russia, Latvia and Estonia identified in 2 weeks, 3 were recognized as the locations of the largest mass graves in the Baltic waters. 3,800 people remained on the Balhash forever. 2,000 died on the Naissaar. There were almost 1,500 people on the Everita alone. The depth of the dives ranged from 70 to 100 meters. It was possible to carry out work for 25-30 minutes on the bottom of the sea. This was followed by 2.5 hours of decompression. This is enough time to reflect on and relive every detail you see. You can only give free rein to your emotions once you reach the surface. Just skulls, shin bones, boots, shoes, and all this in one mass, in one huge pile. It really seemed as if they placed all these people into a big pile. I made a video of it. It was a nightmare. God forgive and save us. For the first time, an Orthodox priest went down there, who, maybe without priestly attire and in a diving suit, said there the words of prayer, the words for peace. Did you say a prayer right there? Yes, right there, because it seemed to me that my soul, in fact, was asking for this. And somehow I felt that this prayer was also necessary and important for them. So, did you pray at the bottom and then together? I think that it is unlikely that a priest will ever come to this depth again and will be able to pray in such a place for those who rest there eternally. Vasily Pavlovich Jurja was born on 14th of January 1921. The Balhash tilted and began to sink. Those who were able to and who understood what was happening tried to escape. This is what I did. Without permission, without orders, when the ship began to sink, I jumped into the water in my flannel trousers. The only thing on my mind was to save myself, so I did everything I could to get to the ground as quickly as possible. Whoever was in the holds, may the memory of them live forever. However, many people died. Combat veterans from many Russian families are still considered missing. In one season, the reconnaissance and diving crew, assisted by the Presidential Grants Fund, the Russian Geographical Society, the Transneft and Fertoin companies, and of course, hundreds of ordinary, caring people, established the exact places where 10 ships and vessels sank, along with their crews and passengers. This amounts to about 10,000 people. Even if not all their names are known, their memory will live in one of the families who, 80 years later, will receive the long-awaited news, found buried in a mass grave in the Gulf of Finland. The families will keep a capsule with soil from the place where their dear veteran and his comrades are on eternal watch as the most precious shrine. Larissa Alexandrovna, I would like to present on behalf of our entire team this capsule with soil from the central part of the Uminda minefield, from the location where the rearguard perished, including the Russian destroyer Artyom. I want to give special thanks, of course, to the reconnaissance and diving crew and the crew of the ships of the Great Victory for their incredibly noble work. I kept asking my grandmother, why is it that they remember Inge and where are the other participants of the Tallinn breakthrough? That's where it all started. And of course, I couldn't imagine that this is what it would all lead to. Thank you very much. These details are not just shocking. They make you think even more and tell the whole world that such a tragedy should never happen again. The destroyer Defender violated our state border around noon and entered the territorial waters of Russia at Cape Fearland. The foreign ship didn't respond to change course, and the border guards were forced to fire warning shots.